Production of Kansas City Week in Review is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, Smithfield Foods, Haas and Wilkerson Insurance, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Coming up, will it now ever be built? New questions about what many considered a done deal. Plus, Walmart abandons Mission Gateway. Is that the final nail in the coffin for Johnson County's most beleaguered project? They got what they wanted, the Intercontinental on the plaza declared blighted. Meanwhile, the mayor dismayed as City Hall votes to put new caps on tax incentives. Also this half hour, no more Broadway Bridge. And should a political candidate have to disclose their tax returns? How an issue in the presidential race is now playing out locally. We also truth check a new round of ads in one of the most contested races in Kansas. And we ask, how prepared are we for Election Day? Welcome everyone, I'm Nick Haynes and thanks for being with us as we dissect the news of the week in this place we call home with three reporters charged with covering that news. Lynn Horsley covers City Hall for the Kansas City Star, columnist, blogger and reporter Dave Helling also with the Kansas City Star, and Jay Center, editor and publisher of the Shawnee Mission Post. Last summer in Kansas City they were cracking open the champagne.
On. Kansas City has really pulled its chair up to the table of great cities.
The deal had been struck on building a new 800-room downtown convention hotel. Construction set to begin this past May. It never happened. Now a front-page story in the Kansas City Star this week asks, will it ever be built? Apparently, a series of obstacles is delaying the more than $300 million project, enough so that some city officials have doubts about whether it will proceed. Among those quoted in the story is the city's deputy finance director, who says, I'd put it at 50-50. Now, that hardly inspires confidence. What is prompting these concerns that this long-touted signature project for Kansas City might fail to happen? Lynn?
Well, Nick, I mean, we don't know yet whether it's going to come together. And Mike Burke, the development attorney, still says he hopes and thinks it will come together and possibly early next year. But the city will not guarantee the bonds. They will not tell investors if this doesn't produce as we hope and doesn't generate the revenues needed, we'll back those bonds, we'll make up the difference. And that makes it harder to get private investors to sign on. And so that's one of the delays. There's also been delays with getting the land sale completed where they want to build the hotel. And there's some other just lease agreements that need to be signed. So it's a complicated deal, a lot of moving parts, and they've just not come together as quickly as hoped.
But what is the implications of this, Dave Helling? Because we now know that there are a number of conventions, huge conventions, that have said, we're coming to Kansas City because of this convention hotel. What if it isn't built on time and on budget?
Well, then someone has some work to do, some phone calls to make. And some people may cancel. Some organizations may say, look, we don't have the first-class hotel rooms that we want, and they may decide not to come to Kansas City. But every indication, even back a year ago, Nick, was that the financing package for this facility was going to be very difficult, intricate to put together. The land assembly condemning property or purchasing property from the Hereford Association, which has land there now, was always going to be difficult. And frankly, they know they can get top dollar because it's a crucial parcel, so that's an issue. And the complicated catering agreement continues to be a bit of a bobble. You put all that stuff together and it was always going to be tough. It looks like now it's going to be even tougher.
Now, if the downtown convention hotel is not built on time, at least there will be hundreds of beautifully renovated rooms on the Country Club Plaza for visitors to enjoy. City Hall this week declaring the Intercontinental Hotel blighted. That means the hotel can collect an additional sales tax to fund millions in upgrades, but the decision comes with a catch. The hotel's owners have to provide $250,000 to fix up truly blighted homes in the city, and they have to offer up 40% of their job openings to city residents. Now, I see that's being heralded as a creative solution, but isn't that really a small price to pay in exchange for more than $16 million in public health?
Well, the tax surcharge that they're going to be allowed to charge will generate about $5 million of the $16 million that the owners will invest in this new hotel. But yes, it's a small price to pay. It was the price that was needed to make it palatable to the city council. To be allowed to use this tax, the hotel had to be declared blighted. And who thinks anything on the Country Club Plaza, one of our nicest assets, is blighted? There's legal blight, and then there's real blight. And so the city council said, we want the hotel's owners to help us with some of the real blight on the east side, and so that's where this $250,000 will go. It'll be going for home repairs for senior citizens who need to update their aging homes.
And there are implications to this too, Dave, because other hotels now are saying, hey, we want in on this too.
Right, including the downtown Marriott, which they're arguing, hey, look, we were putting our package together long before the Intercontinental was interested. Nick, we need to pay attention to the use of the CID, not only in Missouri, but in Kansas, as we know. Shopping centers, hotels, neighborhood groups, they're all trying to use this tool in which sales taxes are boosted in a geographic area, and then the money is returned to whoever has asked for the CID. It sounds like sort of a win-win, but sales taxes are enormously high in this area, and when you tack on another penny, as many of the CIDs do, now you're talking 10, 11 cents on the dollar. That's regressive, it hurts the poor, and it's not noticeable enough for people to get outraged about in both states, not just Missouri, but in Kansas.
Because it isn't without controversy in Johnson County too, Jay.
Absolutely. Any major development, it seems, that comes before a city council in Johnson County lately has some sort of public financing request attached to it. I heard an attorney representing the Prairie Fire Development tell the Overland Park City Council a couple weeks ago, it is economically impossible to do a development of this scale without public financing at this point. But you are starting to see city councils really push back on that and want to see very, very detailed projections and a lot more wiggle room than they've gotten when they've given TIFs out in the past.
Well, and most of the community improvement districts up till now have been for public infrastructure, sidewalks and garages and parking lots, but the Intercontinental was for the hotel renovations. And so the city council is recognizing this could open the floodgates for other hotels wanting their own renovations and their own surcharge. They have said, we need a policy. We can't just keep making this up as we go along. We can't do it on a case-by-case basis, so they hope to get a policy soon.
There was a huge controversy in Leawood. They wanted to use a CID to make improvements to a grocery store, to actually make the aisles look better. And the city council in Leawood said that's not really what a community improvement district should be about. And there was some discussion, and they eventually, I think they did approve the CID, but it didn't include the grocery store. There were some other things that took place.
And that was a Hy-Vee store, which ended up leaving. They did leave, and it's still abandoned today, that space.
I haven't really reported a lot on it, so the details may be a little sketchy, but there was a huge debate about it, and there needs to be a lot of scrutiny to the use of this important tool, primarily because it impacts the sales tax.
5 years after declaring that Walmart would be the rocket fuel to finally get the Mission Gateway project up and running, the world's largest retailer has announced it's pulling out of what is perhaps the most beleaguered project in Johnson County. When the Mission Mall was torn down a decade ago, there were plans to transform the site into the region's largest aquarium. That plan and so many others have fallen apart. But with Walmart now saying they're not coming, is there anything left to save, Jay?
Tom Valenti, the developer, sure hopes there is, because he has a lot of time and money and energy invested in this project. He has said that he's looking for 3 big box retailers to basically take the spot in the development that Walmart was tapped to do. Walmart's exit is actually probably something that people on the Mission City Council are pretty pleased to see. The idea of, again, this is a project where the developer has asked for a lot of public financing in the form of TIF. The idea of providing public financing to a Walmart-anchored project was totally unpalatable to the city council and to many of the residents of the city of Mission. So the fact that that big box discount retailer is not going to be the focal point could be something that finally gets the project moving. We've got to see who he can bring in, and frankly, with all the fits and starts, he may have a hard time finding retailers willing to say, yeah, we want to be a part of it.
Why did Walmart pull out?
Well, likely, they have not addressed that specifically, but you've got to sort of assume that the ongoing negative publicity around this, there have been 4, 5, 6 proposals floated before the city council. They've all gotten rejected. Walmart does have the property in Roland Park, and they're less than a mile apart about. It can reinvest, and it has said that it will reinvest in that Roland Park store. So in terms of serving the market, they have an option. I think they just want to move forward with
Because
with
Roland
that.
Park was also exceptionally happy this week because
Exceptionally
they were looking at losing what was actually their largest sales tax generator in the city, Walmart, and they were looking at it. Well, they did increase taxes because of the concern about having to cut
They
services.
did. Back in 2013, they had a sizable hike to their mill levy, to their property tax rate, to make up for the anticipated loss of about $700,000 in sales tax revenue that came from Walmart and associated properties. This was back in 2014. That's when this was all. The Walmart was supposed to shut down. Everything was supposed to open up in Mission Gateway. Since that time, they've been collecting that sales tax revenue, and they've been using it to build up their reserves. But they are no longer in this situation where they're going to see this huge part of their sales tax foundation exiting the city.
No, I did notice that you were asking your readers at the Shawnee Mission Post what would they like to see now at the Mission Gateway project, now that we're in the situation. What types of ideas have come out of that effort?
All manner of suggestions have come through. A lot of people, said a kind of specialty grocery store like a Trader Joe's or Sprouts or something like that. And Sprouts was at one point supposed to be part of the project, but backed out. Other people have pointed to, hey, maybe this could be more of like a cultural destination or an arts center. You could get theaters, restaurants, things like that in there. But that would kind of require going back to square one and drawing up an entire new project. Tom Valenti does not want to spend the time or money to do that at this point.
It could be the site for a Kansas-side American Royal, Lynn Horsley.
Well, I just am mystified because it's such a prominent corner of this metro area in a very affluent community. It's just mystifying to me that they've not been able to find something that would work there.
Yeah. I had a conversation with a county politician the other day because the Helling plan has always been to put the courthouse there. Put the new courthouse on that corner. Everyone chuckles when I say that, but if you're just looking at it logically, a lot of the people who do business at the courthouse in Johnson County have to drive all the way out to Olathe, and if you had the Justice Center, if you will, in that part of the county, a lot of people would find it more convenient. But I was told, and then I looked at the statute and found this out today, you can't build the courthouse in any place other than Olathe because Olathe is the county seat. It's been the county seat since 1859, and so whatever the voters decide in about 3 or 4 weeks on the courthouse, that's going to happen if they build it out in Olathe. So absent some public use, which I still think is probably something people should look at least partially, maybe the courthouse annex that's now at Lamar might move over there. I mean, there may be some public uses that would be convenient for people, get rid of that dirt pile that's in the middle of the street, and at the same time make things better for constituents. Maybe that's one of the answers.
You've no doubt heard plenty about the calls for presidential candidate Donald Trump to release his tax returns. Now the issue is playing out in the race for Missouri governor, where Democrat Chris Koster is refusing to participate in any more debates unless his opponent, Republican Eric Greitens, releases his tax returns. Greitens has refused, and his campaign issued a statement saying, "We will not meet Koster's arbitrary political demands." There is no requirement, of course, for candidates to release tax returns. So is it unfair for Koster to use this issue as a reason not to debate his opponent, Dave Helling?
Well, debates over debates, nothing is unfair. You use whatever reason or issue you want to use to try and decide whether or not you want to debate someone. And frankly, the advantage is, I think Chris Koster has determined that any more debates would be more to Greitens' advantage than his, simply because Koster is probably ahead. But here's the other part of this strategy a lot of people don't know about. The Koster people are convinced, one of the big arguments they're making against Eric Greitens is he has enriched himself through the Mission Continues, which is his charity. And have you seen a lot of ads where they've talked about his salary? Well, they're also convinced that Eric Greitens has made a lot of money over the last years giving speeches across the country at $15,000 or $16,000 a pop to schools, colleges, universities, that kind of thing. And they think Greitens' tax returns would reveal that income, that he's made, maybe $100,000 in a year from just giving speeches to people. And they would use that to further their argument that Eric Greitens is, in essence, using his Navy SEAL service as a way to enrich himself. That's why they're so focused on the tax returns. That's why Koster has released his own. Okay. We'll see what Greitens does.
So we shouldn't have an expectation that candidates do this. We don't expect Mayor Sly James, when he was running for re-election, to reveal all of his tax information.
He was not expected to reveal his income tax returns, but he was criticized for not paying some personal property taxes. And there was a mix-up. His wife thought they'd paid the taxes on a car, and so it was kind of used against him. Personal property taxes obviously are part of the city's revenues, so it did become an issue.
And public record, too.
Exactly.
In the United States, schools are primarily a state and local responsibility. So why are the candidates running for Congress on the Kansas side of state line bashing one another over who would be best for your kids in the classroom? Next on Week in Review, with Truth Check, a pair of ads from incumbent Congressman Kevin Yoder and his Democratic challenger, Jay Sidey.
Back to school is usually an exciting time for our family. But earlier this year, I wasn't sure there'd be a school for my daughters to go back to. Then I learned Kansas' current crisis had its genesis with Kevin Yoder, the architect of Sam Brownback's radical plan to cut education to pay for corporate tax breaks.
Sidey's attacking Kevin Yoder's record on education, but he skipped every school funding vote here in Kansas, failing to support over $500 million in new investments in our children's future. When our kids' schools were on the line, Sidey didn't lift a finger to vote.
Okay, well, now what votes are we talking about here? Now, Jay Sidey was not a public official, right?
Nope, he's never held elective office. Apparently, Yoder's campaign is pointing out simply that he has not voted in public ballot measures on Shawnee Mission School District funding as a private citizen, but he has not held elected office.
So of all the issues that the candidates could talk about, why are they talking about an issue that really Congress has very little control over? This has become a state and local issue. Why this one?
Deep cynicism and disrespect for the voters of the 3rd District, I guess. There's absolutely no reason for them to be discussing this issue. It is way outside of the jurisdiction of the Congress. If Jay Sidey is particularly particularly concerned about Kansas school financing and making sure Kansas schools should be open, he should be running for the State House, not for the Congress.
Now, the fact that Kevin Yoder was so fast to respond to the ad that Jay Sidey put out, does that suggest that this race is a little closer than we think, Dave?
Well, it may be close. I mean, closer than it typically is in the 3rd District, in part because Donald Trump is not overwhelmingly popular, particularly in Johnson County, where the vast majority of votes come from in the 3rd. And that might be hurting Kevin Yoder a little bit, but he's got a lot more money. He's the incumbent. He's a Republican in a Republican county. He still remains the favorite. Let me point out something very quickly, though, Nick. The Democratic strategy is to tie Yoder to Sam Brownback, who is, in Johnson County, extraordinarily unpopular in the single digits in some places, and so they're using education to make that case. But in that ad, it implies that somehow Brownback and Yoder were working together. Yoder had left for Congress by the time Sam Brownback was governor, so they didn't serve together at any time, and so any direct linkage, not to mention the Democrats were in charge of the governorship when Yoder was pushing through these things, so any linkage is a real stretch.
Jay?
Yeah, well, so, I mean, the other thing that's I think worth pointing out here is that, Kevin Yoder is not an invincible candidate. I mean, he has had some significant missteps that have had national attention during his first 3 terms in office. So it's very puzzling to me that the Sidey campaign would choose trying to tie him to Sam Brownback instead of some of the actual issues from Yoder's record during his time in office. Sidey has a lot less resources than Yoder does, and so every time he puts out an ad, that represents a significant investment from his campaign. He really needs to hit on Kevin Yoder's record in Congress if he's going to land some punches and make some ground up. I don't think this ad does that.
Well, let's stay on the Kansas side for a moment. New numbers just released in Kansas show the state's budget deficit now growing to $60 million. Now, the Brownback administration is considering changing the way it reports its financial figures. Comparing tax collections with projections, they say, is no longer valuable. Jay, how is all this playing out on the campaign trail where dozens of candidates are running for legislative seats? Do they get the complicated math of state financing, or are they fixated on other issues?
Well, I think they definitely are fixated on this issue, on the budget. It does not take much of a leap to assume that the reason that the Brownback administration is interested in moving away from this reporting technique is because the month after month after month reporting about millions and millions of dollars in shortfall just underscores the fact that the tax cuts have not worked anywhere close to the way that they were sold to the public. There are Republicans running for re-election. Jim Denning was at a forum in Overland Park yesterday where he said, I want to get out of the newspaper. I want us to start meeting our revenues. They know they've got a problem on their hands, but it's pretty disheartening to see the Brownback administration trying to finagle this. They need to own up to the fact.
But is all this financial talk too complicated for voters to grasp, or is there more important pressing issues that voters have on their minds,
No,
Dave?
they grasped it pretty good in the primary, didn't they? I mean, they ran a lot of the conservatives out of office. They may run more out of office. I mean, you're right, people don't fixate on the 60 million or 70 million shortfall over the first 3 months, but they do know the credit of the state has been downgraded. They do know that their school districts have been howling for 2 years. They do know that pension payments aren't being made and that highway money is being transferred from the highways to cover these shortfalls. Those are pretty easy concepts for people to understand. I did a forum of my own with state, senate, and legislative House candidates a couple of weeks ago, and about 28, 29 different candidates. And the anger in the public is very palpable, and I think we'll see that show up again in November.
Well, speaking of complicated math, not everyone we know understands TIFs and the complicated world of tax incentives. But this week in Kansas City, Missouri, to the dismay of the mayor, the city council votes to finally place new limits on the amount of public subsidies handed out to developers. In the past, developers could avoid paying 100% of their property taxes on projects thanks to the city's incentive programs. Now that incentive is capped at 75%. For those not involved, it may not sound like a huge difference. So why is the mayor saying this could bring development to a screeching halt? We could once again put up a sign that Kansas City is closed for business, Lynn.
Well, a lot of the developers say that they ask for the redirection of taxes that they need to make a project work. And sometimes they feel like they need that 100%. If you reduce that incentive by 25%, that could make a big deal. Now, that was not necessarily the mayor's key objection. What we've had is a bit of a war between the city and these other taxing jurisdictions, the schools, the library, and the county. They felt like the property taxes that they should have been getting were being reduced. And these groups also motivated the public to gather petition signatures for referendums against some of these projects. The mayor wanted some kind of assurance that that whole pushback is going to stop. The taxing jurisdictions sent letters saying we're generally in agreement with this, but they didn't promise that they're going to stop challenging deals. And I'm not sure the mayor is going to get the assurance that the challenge will quit, but he wanted a more definite reassurance from these jurisdictions, and that wasn't forthcoming, and so that's why he opposes it. Other council members said, look, we've got to pull the trigger now. I mean, we've talked about this forever. It is a problem. We're getting so much pushback. Let's do something and try to get back on track.
But when you're just talking about reducing by 25%, I mean, does anyone have a sense of what practical difference that would really make?
Well, we'll find out from developers and others who come to City Hall. But I think there was as much symbolism in this vote, Nick, as there is an actual practical application, because the council is sending a clear signal that it thinks that these incentives are getting out of hand. The mayor is resisting that because the mayor is a very powerful person if he becomes the she becomes the gatekeeper in these development projects, as the mayor wants to be. We have to keep an eye on what the council is saying to the mayor, because I never saw, in 8 years when I covered city fairly closely, I never saw Emanuel Cleaver lose a vote that mattered. Maybe one time, municipal court judge. Kay Barnes never lost a vote. She was able to compromise. With Mark Funkhauser, of course, that went completely out the window. He lost on every vote. And now I think, and maybe Lynn would agree, this is a real signal that people are not overwhelmingly satisfied with Mayor James' relationship with the council on a whole range of issues, and I think there was some message sending in that vote yesterday.
In just over 30 days, we'll be heading to the polls, but is Kansas and Missouri ready for what some predict will be one of the biggest elections of modern times? You might have caught the news that more than 20 states have faced major election hacking attempts. That from the Department of Homeland Security, which acknowledges hackers have intensely probed state voter registration systems in more than 20 states. But I find no list of which states fell victim to that digital meddling. First of all, was Kansas and Missouri among them, Dave?
No, as far as I can tell, now there are things we don't know for sure. Most of the reporting suggests that whatever warnings we're getting about hacking into computer systems are probably a little bit overblown. Not that it can't happen, but to greatly affect the elections is very difficult to do.
But one of the bigger concerns is, can we handle all of these crowds that will come to the polls on election day? And I see that Johnson County, you're reporting, is still looking for election workers, hundreds of them.
Yeah, that's correct. Johnson County over the past 4 or 8 years has majorly curtailed the number of election sites that it has. And what it's doing is trying to make sure that the election sites that it does have plenty of staff members to get people in and out the door, because they are expecting bigger crowds than usual at these sites. So they're still looking for 300 election volunteers with about a month left to go.
A couple quick things. The bigger problem is that the computers that we're using to vote on are getting very old, and there's not a lot of money to replace them. Those are more than a decade old now. That's a concern in both Missouri and Kansas. And then in Missouri, Nick, the ballot is this long. It's the longest ballot in history, and the lines in Missouri may be long as well.
Well, and finally, quit calling it the Broadway Bridge. The busy span of the Missouri River connecting North Kansas City to downtown officially changed its name this week to the John Jordan Buck O'Neill Memorial Bridge. Kansas City's Negro League baseball legend died 10 years ago this week. A fitting tribute, Lynn?
It's a lovely tribute. It's a mouthful. I don't know that people will immediately call it the John David Buck O'Neill Bridge, but we had the Paseo Bridge that, of course, was renamed for Kit Bond, and we now call it the Bond Bridge. So I could see this becoming the Buck O'Neill Bridge.
I remember the days when you had to throw a dime in a basket when you went across that bridge. Of course, the toll was eliminated by the Cleaver Plan.
Yes.
And so
but that was
congratulations to Buck O'Neill.
That was back in 1936. And that is our week in review. Our thanks to our news reviewers, the Stars, Lynn Horsley and Jay Center from the Shawnee Mission Post, and the Kansas City Stars, Dave Helling. No, he's not that old. I'm Nick Haynes from all of us here at KCPT. Thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.